In 1865, the 13th Amendment was passed. The amendment outlawed slavery in America, and it put an end to most slavery in America. Today I'm going to inform you about how slavery still exists in America and in other countries as well. Many slaves are forced against their will through bonded labor, child slavery, or human trafficking. Human trafficking is big in Thailand and Cambodia. In Cambodia, 41% of the women are illiterate. This leads to many of the women being abducted and put into sex trafficking because they're illiterate. They're looking for jobs and they get forced to it in the wrong way. Ukraine is one of the largest exporters. They export around 420,000 slaves every year. Next, I'll tell you a little short story about Maya and Narayan. Narayan was a guy who worked hard in a factory, and his boss asked him one day if he knew anyone who wanted to work in another factory. And he said, yes, I might have someone. So Narayan went and spoke to this other man, Mr. Basu, who seemed like a very nice guy. It seemed like he was setting him up with a really good deal. He said, I need $650 in cash. Mr. Basu was like, okay, I'll give it to you, but you will have to pay me back. They will have to pay me back through working for me, until they have repaid me. And Narayan said, okay. Maya and her family got word from Narayan that they had this job, and they agreed to go work over there. As they went over there, they thought everything was going to be good. They got put in their homes, and soon the days became long. They were not able to have enough money for food. They were working way too much other than what they should have been. And when the kiln was done, when they couldn't sell anymore because they had overproduced, Mr. Basu would put them to random jobs and make them work the most odd jobs for no reason. Mr. Basu one day took 3 women out to a temple that he created where people worship. He had them do some chores, and the next thing you know, he pulls Maya aside and he tells her to get undressed, and she refuses. He hits her and he forces all her clothes off and then he rapes her. She did not see this coming. And then, as she goes back, she realized that he had done the same to the other 2 women that were there with him. Ashamed, they went back to their villages and kept working without telling their husbands that were there with them. Soon, this led to more beatings among when they were working, when they weren't doing a good enough job. They just continued to beat them. One night, Mr. Basu and his family members, Mr. Basu and his workers, they had been partying out in the city, and they came back. They dragged the women out, and as they were dragging out, the husbands put up a fight. But he beat them, him and his men beat them, tied them up, and made them listen to him rape their wives. When the wives came back into the house, the husbands did not speak out of respect. After that, Maya knew that her and her family needed to get out of there. So one weekend when Mr. Basu and his son went out of town, they climbed the wall over this giant wall where they cut themselves on the wire that was above it, and they were able to make it to the other side and get to their village. But when they got to their village, they knew they could not stay there. Mr. Basu found out that they had left and did not know where they had went, and he sent news to Narayan saying that they had left and he needed to get them back, and if not, he was going to torment them. And Narayan had no argument. So Narayan went to Mr. Basu one day and told him that he did not know where they were. And Mr. Basu beat him and 2 other family members. He tore off all their clothes, humiliated them, took pictures of them. And he sent one of them out and said, if you do not bring them back, I will kill these other 2 members. So the guy went searching for the other family members, found them, and told them, I'm not going back there. I'm assuming you're not going back there either, but we do need to help our family members that are over there. And one of the villagers knew of an organization called IJM, International Justice Missions. And they called them up, got them Aware of the situation, IJM took control of it, went into Mr. Vasu's, took all the slaves out. They tried to arrest Mr. Vasu, but the authorities did not because they didn't want to go against his power. It took 2 years for him to finally get arrested. He still didn't get put in jail, and he's still awaiting trial today. Many other stories are like this, many harsh stories of women getting raped, men getting beat. And another thing is child slavery, which is huge in Uganda. Many children are forced into the LRA, which is the Lord's Resistance Army. They're forced to either kill a family member or watch a family member die. And this is so that they feel shame and they will never go back to their village because the people will not accept them. Another way they use them is in child sex slaves. And they take the young girls and they rape them. And they use them give them to their leaders. Slavery in America is also a big deal. About 14,500 to 17,500 people are imported into the U.S. from other countries every year. And there are around 100,000 people enslaved in the U.S. Almost every state has a human trafficking law, but they're not enough because people aren't aware of where these human traffickers are. Around 90 cities so far are known to have had sex trafficking or human trafficking. At a number standpoint, in the world, there are around 20 to 30 million slaves, and slavery is the third most profitable criminal activity in the world. A slave in 1809 cost $40,000 to today's money terms, while a slave today costs $90. One way you can get informed is by going to many websites. You can go online to IndianMovement.com. You can go to NotForSale.com, and you can look up ways as to how you are helping slavery by with your purchases and how you can prevent slavery. Thank you for listening to my speech, and just know that there are many slaves today in the world.